Oh, look at me, I'm Leatherface!
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing another anniversary review. It is the 25th anniversary of Idle Hands from 1999. It stars Devon Sawa, Elden Henson, Seth Green and Jessica Alba. Now when I ask people about Idle Hands, if they liked Idle Hands, because I assume that they've seen Idle Hands, most of the time people say to me, I don't know what that is. And it was a head scratcher for me at the time I thought everybody knew about Idle Hands, but apparently not. It's more of a comedy than a pure horror film. Yes, there's horror elements to it, and it is classed as a horror film, but there's a lot of comedy in it as well. But it's not just comedy for the sake of trying to be funny. It is genuinely a funny horror film, and what impressed me most about the comedy in it is a lot of the comedy came from Devon Sawa. I didn't think he had any comedy in him because he was in films like Final Destination and Casper and stuff and Wild America, so he wasn't really known for his comedic attributes. And I did see some interviews with him even recently, talking to Michael Rosenbaum. He went into that mindset of Bruce Campbell in Evil Dead 2 when he was auditioning for the role of Anton Tobias, and with this kind of hand that he had to try and move around, and he got the part, of course, and the rest is history. But he has got a lot of really funny comedy moments in it, and I think it really hit well. But where did Idle Hands begin with me? Well, being from the UK, we didn't really have Idle Hands advertised over here in the UK, so we had to really look for the film to actually find it. And obviously I didn't go to the cinema to see it. I eventually bought the DVD when it came out here in the UK. It was a Columbia TriStar or Columbia Pictures DVD that I got. But stumbling across Idle Hands was a bit of an accident, to be honest, because at the time I was into a lot of punk American bands like Good Charlotte. I was going to say Simple Plan, but they're Canadian, but North American, we'll call it. I was listening to like Good Charlotte, Simple Plan, Blink-182, and I was listening to bands from soundtracks from films that I loved at the time. So like bands from the Faculty soundtrack, the Scream soundtrack, Scream 2, you know what I'm going to say, all those kind of films, even the American Pie soundtracks. And there was bands that were coming up, and I came across Rob Zombie. And I didn't know who Rob Zombie was, so I searched for his songs, and I think it was Dragula he had. And then when I was searching Dragula, Idle Hands kept coming up, and I'm like, oh, Idle Hands, I wonder what movie this is. And when I saw the cast list, I already loved Seth Green. Obviously, he was in it at the time, or a few years before it. And I knew who Devon Sawa was because I seen Final Destination before I seen Idle Hands. So I'm like, oh, Devon Sawa's in this, it must be good. And I was just off the back of watching the Mighty Ducks trilogy as well. So Elden Henson was fresh in my mind. And then seeing, obviously, Jessica Alba, I'm like, oof, this is good. So seeing the cast, I'm like, this looks like it could be a good film. And then finding out it was a comedy horror as well, I was like, do you know what, I'm going to give it a chance because it sounds like the soundtrack's going to be good and the cast is also good as well. And this, again, these aren't really movie reviews, guys, so I'm not going to give a full movie review, but when I watched the movie, I fell in love with it straight away. I will mention this, guys, because I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video that you have left me some memories because I've given you guys a chance to leave your memories of the films as well that I do in these anniversary reviews. So I will be reading some of those memories out at the very end. So try and stick throughout this video, guys, to see if your memory gets read out at the end. Going back to the soundtrack for the film, I think the soundtrack was fantastic. There was a song, I can't remember the name of the band, was it BTK or something? Or was the song called BTK? It was Peppy Rock anyway. And I loved that song as well. And at the time when I was watching Idle Hands and all these films, the teen comedy horrors, I had a mini disc player. Do you remember the mini disc players? I had this mini disc player because it was better than a CD, and if you had it in your pocket and you were walking around, it wouldn't skip because we were kind of finished with cassettes at that point, so we were on to CDs. And the CDs kept skipping, so the mini disc player was the answer to these digital CDs. So I got a mini disc player and I put the Idle Hands soundtrack on it, and I listened to Pepe Rock all the time, and also Rob Zombie's Dracula. And that's how I was really introduced to Rob Zombie, is because of Pepe Rock, is because of Idle Hands. And there is obviously a scene in Idle Hands where he's doing his crochet to try and keep his hand still, and Dracula came on. It was Rob Zombie's Dracula, the music video, and as he's killing the police officers with the knitting needle, the Dracula was playing, and that's how I came to know Rob Zombie. When you look at other horror comedies, sometimes the horror's just not there and it falls flat in its face, and sometimes the comedy's just not there and it also falls flat in its face, and in other circumstances the horror and the comedy don't match, and then the film just falls flat completely. But with Idle Hands, I think it has a perfect balance of the comedy and the horror. Not only does it have the perfect balance, as when the horror elements were there, they were quite scary at times, and when the comedy was there, I found myself laughing out loud. And if you're going to be laughing out loud 1 minute and then covering your eyes another minute, then the film's done something right.
Oh, look at me, I'm Leatherface!
The film also has a lot of quotable scenes in it, or quotable lines. I think if you grew up watching the film, you'll still quote the movie today, and I still quote the movie today. And I did read some of the comments before going into this video that you guys have left. Some of you guys have left just the quotes from the film as well, which is always appreciated, but I really do want your memories as well, not just the quotes from the film, regardless of how funny they are. But when I was reading some of these out, or when I was reading some of these in my head, they brought back a lot of memories, and again, they're really funny. When I think back on films like Idle Hands, when it comes to memories, my memories for films like Idle Hands and the era that it came out, it just reminds me of getting my first DVD player, because I didn't get a DVD player until I think it was 2000, so it was just after Idle Hands came out in the US cinemas. So Idle Hands naturally was one of the first DVDs that I ever bought, and it's one of the DVDs that I always stuck on. So I just get that vivid memory of being in my old house with my old massive silver DVD player, and I also watched it in my little brother's room as well. He had a DVD player in his room, and he had this TV. I don't know if you guys remember this, but you would get an old, maybe a 15-inch TV on this stand that would go up in your corner of your ceiling. So if you're in your high up bed, you've got your TV looking down on you and you can see it. So yeah, it just reminds me, Idle Hands just doesn't remind me of films. It reminds me of the things that I was doing when I was younger. I think I watched it when I was like 17, I think I was. So I was still kind of young, but at the same time, I was mature enough to know what was good and what was bad. I wasn't just watching films for the blood, guts and gore. I wanted a bit of comedy. I wanted a bit of story, good backstory as well. And it's funny, when I was watching the interview with Devon Sawa, when he was talking about getting the role with his hand and mimicking Bruce Campbell for Evil Dead. When I watched Idle Hands, I didn't think of Evil Dead at all, even though they had that hand and they had to chop the hand off and stuff. I didn't get that connection with Evil Dead. I don't know why, but I just didn't put two and two together, because it has to have more than just the hand, because the film is a horror comedy. Evil Dead, not the first one really, but the second one, Army of Darkness and stuff, those are horror comedies as well, with the hand running around. So I don't know why I didn't put that connection there in the first place, because at the time I did love the Evil Dead franchise. One thing I've learned about doing these anniversary reviews is I think films from the late 90s, for me, with my experiences and my nostalgic feeling towards these films, is I think they get better with age, and maybe they won't as the years go by. Maybe I'll look back in this movie in 10, 15 years time and think, oh, maybe it hasn't aged at all really well. But at this moment in time, films around 25 years old, I think most of them that I've covered anyway are aging very gracefully, and I think Idle Hands is one of them. So it's time to read out some memories. I'm not going to read all of them out. Again, I'm going to select a few, but rest assured I have read all of them, or I will have read all of them by the time this video goes out. So the first one is from, is it Danielle Does Not? Apologies if that's not how you pronounce it. Danielle Does Not said, "Look, I'm Leatherface remains top tier horror comedy for me." Yeah, there was a scene where Seth Green has got the the little electric cutter. And he's like, "Oh, look at me, I'm Leatherface." And he pulls it away from the wall and it comes out and it stops moving. It's so simple. The comedy isn't groundbreaking comedy. It's just funny comedy. It is a stoner film. I forgot to say it's like a stoner comedy horror. So a lot of the things that happen in it, maybe you have to be stoned to watch the movie. I don't know how that feels because we're from the UK. But yeah, it's like a stoner humour throughout the film, and even though I'm not a stoner, I still think the humour works, and that's one of those moments. Afterburn said, "I was 15, box cover caught my eye at the video store, rented it for the weekend, had some friends over, ended up really enjoying the movie, watching it several times over the weekend. Favourite part was probably the saw blade kill. Oh, that was a great kill. We'll talk about the cover art. Yeah, I love the cover art for the film because that's what drew me into it as well. Seeing the poster for the movie, and it's the same poster for the cover art. I think you guys in the US, the initial cover art was the floating heads with Devon Sawa front and centre, whereas us in the UK, we had a more green hue to the cover art where they were walking towards the camera. But both covers were pretty cool and it kind of drew you in. But going on to the saw blade with the hand before he cuts it off, Devon Sawa throws the saw blade, or like a frisbee, into Elden Henson's neck, and it's CGI for a film that probably didn't cost a lot of money and came out in 1999. The CGI in that scene was pretty damn impressive. Daniel Bauer said, "When dude is trying to talk to the guy through the drive-through speaker and he grabs the people's food order, waiting at the drive-through window and honking, and dude throws into their car and yells, 'Here!' I thought I'd never stop laughing, man. Freaking hilarious." Now, the way I've explained that doesn't sound funny, but rest assured, that person who's just left that comment is absolutely correct. And it's a scene that you feel like shouldn't be funny, but it is funny, where he's trying to talk to someone in a mic. He's trying to talk to Jack Noseworthy's character. He's in this car or truck going through the drive-through, and he's trying to get his attention, so he's talking to him through the microphone, but the way he's doing it's funny, and his hand is going all over the place, and then this family come to get their order, and they're waiting for their order, honking the horn, and he just throws it to them, but it's not actually him, it's the hand that's doing it. I think that's what makes it funny, because Devon Sawa is doing things with his body, but the hand is also a character of its own, therefore it has a mind of its own, so when it does stuff like that, it's really funny. David Ethery is next up, my friend Davey now. Davey said, "While my friends liked it, I remember not enjoying Idle Hands very much. I had just gotten into Evil Dead and thought this took a lot of cues from Evil Dead 2, while also cashing in on the teen horror craze going on at the time. Devon Sawa never really worked for me other than SLC Punk, and Jessica Alba, while physically beautiful, is hardly an actress. Maybe I should revisit it though. I was way quick to judge harshly back in my younger years, and I may find upon second watch that I was wrong." Genuinely, Davey, I think you should watch it again. I don't think you're wrong in terms of cashing in on the teen horror craze and even the Evil Dead 2 references. But yeah, I think you should definitely revisit it because, like I said, it has aged gracefully and it's a lot better than films that came out back in that time, a lot of horror films. So yeah, I think this is one of the films that does deserve a second chance. Jessica Alba's not an Oscar-worthy actress, but in a film like Idle Hands, I think she's serviceable, she's good, she's really nice on the eye. I thought she was pretty decent in it as well, so I don't agree with your comment on Devon Sawa either. I think Devon Sawa's always been really good, from Wild America to The Boys Club, Casper, Final Destination. I think everything he's been in, he's been very charismatic, and Idle Hands is probably his best role for me. I think he was good in SLC Punk as well, but Idle Hands, I think he's at his most charismatic in this. Urban Jazzy Life said, "It's a terrible movie." Oh, what? Maybe I shouldn't read this comment out. They said, "It's a terrible movie. Being a vehicle for some Jennifer Alba cleavage is as good as this one is going to do for anyone." In my honest opinion, of course. Well, of course, it is your honest opinion, and that's a shame that you didn't really like it, but I'm glad that you still took the time out of your day to tell me your memory, or at least your opinion on the film. So thanks for that. Maybe you'll give it a second chance as well. I don't know how long it's been since you've seen it, but If you've not seen it in a long time, maybe give it a second chance. If you still feel the way you feel, then fair enough. But if you watch it again and go, do you know what? It's not as bad as I remembered, then you're welcome. Right, I'll read one more out. We've got Jake Schaffer, YT. Jake said, I remember hearing about this movie and getting so excited when Tom DeLonge had a cameo. Yeah, Tom DeLonge, it's a blink and you'll miss it cameo, to be honest. It's not like the cameo we had in American Pie where the Tom, Mark, and Travis had a scene in American Pie. They had a couple of scenes, in fact. So it's not like that. It's literally blink and you'll miss it. He's in the drive-through area as well when Anton comes in with his hand and he wants to try and get Jack Noseworthy's attention. It's when he throws the burgers at the family. He's pretending to take over the shift from the guy who's already working there. And then it's Tom DeLonge and he's like, see you later. He walks away. And if you don't know who Blink-182 are, especially at the time, then you'll have no idea who he was. Luckily for me, I was looking up bands like Blink-182 and Idle Hands came up. And it's probably one of the reasons that Idle Hands came up is because Tom DeLonge has a really, really small cameo in the film. So that's all for today, guys, with Idle Hands. When I was reading your memories out, and again, thank you very much for everyone who's left a memory. When I was reading your memories, there are quite a few that say, I've not seen this movie in a long time and I don't remember liking it. And that's fine, because there's a lot of films that I watched 20 years ago, 30 years ago that I don't really remember, but I didn't have a good time with. And I have watched them recently and thought, that's actually a really good film. And I think if you give it a second chance, I think you might like it or think it's better than you last remembered, if that's even a positive. Hopefully it is. But for those of you who didn't like it all those years ago, give it a second chance. If you don't like it, then fair enough. But I think you might like it more now, because I think when you look back on all these horror films from the late 90s, some of them just don't age well at all. But some of the bigger ones do. And I think Idle Hands not being one of the big ones, then I think that gets bonus points because it was lost within all those films that came out back in the day, because hardly anybody had heard of it at the time, especially people outside of USA and Canada. I know that Canadians like it because of Devon Sawa. So I think anyone outside of North America just didn't see the film. And if you're watching for the first time now, I don't know how well it would hit, because our audiences these days are different from audiences back in the late 90s. But I'm kind of waffling on here. All I can say is I absolutely adore Idle Hands, just like most of the films that I do in this anniversary reviews. But if you haven't seen it, guys, definitely check it out. I think it's worth your while. But anyway, guys, it's been a blast. I absolutely loved Idle Hands. I love revisiting it for this review as well. If you haven't left a comment or a memory and you really want to, then you can always leave that comment down below. I'll always read my comments anyway, guys. Whether it's good or bad in terms of your memories for Idle Hands, it's always nice to read memories of it anyway. But leave those comments down below. Let me know what you think of the film, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played in the cat?
Someone's in the back! See